Welcome to another episode of the Fantasy Basketball PH podcast. Enjoy the show.
What is up mga paps? Welcome to Fantasy Basketball PH. This is your Fantasy Papi, Papi Roy. Baby. So ito mga papi, another episode and we are going to talk about those players that ano mo yan, were hot and were not this past week. So ito yung pamalit natin sa ating daily grind dahil medyo hindi kaya ni Papi Roy na maglabas ng content on a daily basis. Panggabi kasi yung ating day job, actually night job na siya kasi nga panggabi, no? So i-summarize natin siya per week at ito yung ating workaround para naman hindi tayo maubusan ng content. Pero syempre, bago ang lahat, shout out muna tayo. Mahilig ba kayo doon sa mga icon shirts? Like for example, the Beatles or sino mang iba pang kilala or iconic. Mahilig ba kayo sa BTS? Lalo yung mga chibi na BTS. Mahilig ba kayo sa One Piece or other anime na like for example, Gundam or ano pa bang mga anime na andito. Alam ko meron din ditong ano check nyo na lang. Actually, pinakamaganda i-check nyo na lang. And makikita nyo siya dito sa 8graphic.com. So, ang may-ari nito isa sa aking mga best friend from Australia. So, check nyo yan. 8graphic. So, graphic, that's spelled as GRAPHIQUE. So, 8graphic.com. If you love icon shirts, mga cities, ang cities is, for example, Tokyo, Japan, or sa Adelaide, or sa Brisbane ka nakatira, meron silang mga design for that city, di ba? Witty, di ba? And then yun, mga mecha shirts about ito mga robot, Daimos, Mazinger Z, and then Chibi BTS. And then meron din silang wall art if you want a framed drawing or art ng One Piece and other animes, check nyo tong site na to. And they are actually delivering across the whole world. So, check nyo lang yung site. I think it was created at Shopify. And soon, magkakaroon tayo ng tawag dito, giveaways coming from 8 Graphic. Kaya, para sa 8 Graphic at sa aking lupit na kaibigan, Papi Jeffrex Oracion, shoutout sa iyo. Okay, going back sa ating topic, punta na natin. Ups and downs, mga paps. Let's go. So, ang una nating pag-uusapan dito sa ating ups and downs would be ang hot topic for couple of days na. Kyrie Irving. Ano bang masasabi natin kay Papi Kyrie Irving? Sa last episode natin, napag-usapan na natin kung bakit hindi ko siya i-draft. Definitely, he's a down. Siguro tingnan na lang natin yung optimistic na side. Kasi dun sa medyo downward na perspective, kita na natin hindi siya makakapaglaro. Um, at least half of it. Pero looking at it, baka hindi na talaga siya makapaglaro. So dun tayo sa silver lining. Silver lining, number one, in deep leagues, Bruce Brown might surprise you. I understand, nandiyan si Cam Buckets, nandiyan si Patty Mills, pero they really want someone that is skilled, both offensive and defensive. And I guess, mas mabibigay ni Bruce Brown yun. Also, he knows the system and he can actually play. There are games na, lalo na pag wala yung big three, talagang humahataw yan. Pumapalo pa ng mga 29 to 30 points yan. Kaya I love that value in deeper leagues. Also, another silver lining here is maybe sa front court, maybe um, Millsap or Aldridge or Griffin gets more minutes kasi syempre mag-a-adjust yung minutes nila dahil mawawalan sila ng isang main man. Maybe magkaroon ng opportunity si Nick Claxton kasi malay mo pagsabayin Pagawin nilang tres itong si Durant and then Millsap and then Aldridge. So, tingnan natin. Subaybayan natin kung ano yung mga opportunities. Another silver lining is, kung meron kayong kaliga na ayaw na at sukang-sona kay Kyrie, buy low. Buy super low. Uh, Offer nyo si Chris Duarte, offer nyo si Scottie Barnes. Alam ko, hot na players yan. You're actually, expecting a lot from them. Pero, yun na yun eh. Yun nga yung point eh. May Instagram post si Kyrie na hindi naman daw siya talaga basta-basta magre-retire. So what if bigla siyang bumalik? And you turned that hot rookie or hot free agent or hot preseason player into a Kyrie Irving. So, yun lang. It's an angle. It's not for all, pero it's something that you can actually explore. Doon naman tayo sa medyo hot na player or upward trend na player, Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis. Anthony Edwards. Weng, weng, weng. So, para sa akin, itong si Anthony Edwards, his stack is really growing and he's pushing now in that hard fourth round value. Hindi mo na siya basta-basta makukuha later. Kasi aside from scoring and doing it like more efficient than before, uh, ang taas na ng defensive stats niya. He actually is doing what he promised to average 2 steals per game, and then he's still young. So he's a freak of nature in his position. So I think with his work ethic, with his ability to really, you know, hindi ability, more of skill to play basketball, feeling ko naman kayang-kaya. It's pretty much uh, a, a, an next gear na pwede nating ilagay sa arsenal or resume nito ni Ant. So, para kay Ant-Man, makakuha ka dun sa area na yan na makakapag-provide sa'yo ng consistent scoring. Actually, in guard position, can do it all aside from giving you dimes. Pero alam mo yun, maybe it's something na matutunan din niya kasi Finch has been preaching that he wants the ball to Anthony Edwards. Though merong isa pang interview na kay Dilo naman. So medyo contradicting. Pero what if yun yung mangyari? So then medyo papalo yung assist niya. Kasi si Dilo can be that off-ball guard, though it's not his best suit. Pero maybe at this point in his career, kaya niya mag-adjust. So, para sa akin, trending upward itong si Papi Ant. Next, of course, Jordan Poole. Upward yan. Pati nga yung ranking niya sa Yahoo, upward din. Mataas na mataas na. 110-ish na. So, habang wala si Clay, bobomba at bobomba siya. And even nandiyan na si Clay, I do think that I would rather have him playing in terms of that spark plug of a role over Andrew Wiggins or over Otto Porter. Andrew Wiggins is there for defending, of course, and then maybe scoring as well in the forward position. Pero in general, yung spark plug, I think Jordan Poole na yan, kitang-kita naman natin, siya yung parang bunsong kapatid ng mga Splash Brothers. So, it's going to be hard for you to really get him later dahil palong-palo na yung kanyang value. Basta kailangan, gusto ko lang maintindihan nyo kung ano yung makukuha nyo kay Jordan Poole. Though, aside from scoring, hindi din naman siya sobrang hilaw sa depensa and sa pagdidistribute ng bola. So, I think he's actually worth that round 10 pick for me. Next would be Zion, the elephant in the room. No pun intended. Medyo lumaki talaga to si Papi Zion. And then, this is very discouraging, especially na sa size niya, sa kalagayan ng Pelicans na hindi naman talaga nila kailangang, alam mo yun, pilitin. So, for those who really drafted Zion, medyo mabigat itong nangyayari. It's really a blow in your draft, especially if you got him like paano pinartneran nyo ng Giannis Zion. Di ba? Medyo masakit yun. So, wala, ganun talaga. I really hope that you get someone like maybe kasi ang posibleng kumuha nung tira-tirang utilization niya would be Najee Marshall or itong si yung kanilang rookie TM3. So Kaso ang layo nun. Second, third round value tapos yun ang pupulutin mo. The for sure Brandon Ingram will get uh, more usage and yung value niya mas tataas. That goes as well with Jonas Valanciunas. Maybe Jackson Hayes deep leagues. Pero yun, mahirap eh. Mahirap makabawi dyan. Hopefully, kung sino man nakadraft kay Zion, maganda yung mga drafts nyo after that round na nakuha nyo si Zion. Pero yun, it's a very downy, across all formats to, even in Dynasty. It really makes me stay away from Zion unless otherwise, katulad ni Embiid na mapakita niya na healthy siya at least 70 to 80% of the season or at least makatapos siya or makabuo siya ng isang season. So I'm really medyo mahirap na. Yung iba kasi katulad ni na Embiid and sino pa rin na Anthony Davis, there's an optimism especially kung paano nila in-adjust yung laro nila. And ito sobrang bata pa ni Zion and masyado siyang malaki talaga para sa size niya. Lumaki pa siya lalo this off season. So really a downward trend from Zion Williamson. More upward trends. OG Anunoby, he is actually doing some isolation plays, which we haven't seen a lot from him the past seasons, which is actually good as well. At least hindi na lang siya yung 3 and D type, hindi na lang siya yung catch and shoot type. If he develops that, which is feeling ko naman capable siya kasi medyo mahaba at medyo malaki din to si OG, it's gonna bring his game like, a second gear or third gear kung saan kaya niyang talunin or may establish yung sarili niya as that second or third round value. So, sobrang sobrang gandang outlook nito para kay OG Anunoby. Especially wala pa si Siakam, wala na si Lowry. So, everything is pointing upwards. That goes as well with itong si Mo Bamba na nagkaroon ng situation wherein nag-4 itong si WCJR. So, with that said, kung I doubt na gawin nila lagi yun kasi masyadong mabagal yun lalo na kung yung 4 ng kalaban, mga point forward. Mahihirapan si Wendell Carter na depensahan yun. Pero at least they are trying to explore. This is their, kind of like quote and unquote contract year in some sense na ngayon na magde-decide ng Orlando eh, sino ba talaga yung pag-i-investan nila. So, obviously, like the Houston Rockets, like the OKC, they are really going younger. That's the goal. That's the reason why they have players like Suggs, like Wagner. So, um, promising si Mo Bamba, pero I hope yung pinakita niya sa preseason with better positioning, better endurance, ma-maintain niya kasi those has been the um issues in the past kaya hindi siya nabibigyan ng playing time. Next would be Coco Melton. Itong si DeAnthony Melton with Dillon Brooks down. So siya yung parang downwards dito si Dillon Brooks. Hindi natin alam eh. Medyo madamot at kakaibang mag-handle ng injuries itong Memphis Grizzlies. So, expecting Dillon Brooks to be back in the exact date that they proposed or they actually stated is going to be hard for me to believe just because of the Triple J na, na tawag dito na statements that they gave last year, 'di ba? So nakakaduda na. So sana nga hindi na bumalik, joke lang. Pero alam mo 'yun, um, para sa akin solid na solid 'tong si DeAnthony Melton. I really love his game. Maybe this is the year. If opportunity and role ang pag-uusapan, I think mas establish yung makukuha ni Desmond Bane dahil wala si Dillon Brooks. Pero, isang malaking pero, ito namang si DeAnthony Melton ang mas merong magandang fantasy value. So I think um, there's a big chance that he'll be that end of the draft player that could jump into the later, give you a 100-ish value at the end of the season. Or more. Depende na kung ano mangyayari. Knock on the wood din, medyo durable naman si Ja. If something happens, nako, sobrang skyrocket ang value nito ni DeAnthony Melton. Next up would be itong DeAndre Hunter. Nalimutan na lahat. He's been sliding for quite some time. every time may draft. Para sa akin, meron pa ring chance na mabalik niya yung pinakita niya early last season kung saan nakapag-provide siya ng kagulat-gulat na alam mo yun, na efficient scoring. Actually, may mga times na may mga steals din yan across the boards. Hindi naman sobrang multi-cut pero alam mo yun, magugulat ka eh. He's a good defender pero it usually doesn't translate into fantasy stats. Pero maybe this year magbago 'yon. Ang sure lang natin is a good player, he can score. I think Atlanta likes him. So um at the end of the draft, isa siya dun sa mga aabangan ko ng mga players. Even Mobley, of course, ano pa masasabi natin? He should be the future of the Cavs alongside Darius Garland. And ang tanong na lang dyan is, how would Kevin Love react? How would Cavs manage Kevin Love? How would Cavs manage Lauri Markkanen? So, as well as Fro. Pero para sa akin, he's the top priority here. Kita naman sa preseason, kita naman siguro kung gaano nila kagusto na maging, ano yan, magkaroon ng experience itong si Evan Mobley. So for me, he is super trending up. And then lastly, to end up with a positive note, the Australian sensation, Josh Giddey, I think he's gonna be good. Hindi pa nag-uumpisa ang draft, binabanggit na natin 'yan, si Josh Giddey. Kasi nung nakita natin yung laro nito and then nakita ko na kasama siya dun sa draft, na ano talaga ako na na-curious ako nung pinanood ko, quality yung laro niya. Almost a Luka type of player. Hindi naman sobrang level pero merong gano'n na angle or perspective if you're trying to check, what he brings to the table. That goes as well with Alperen Sengun. Pero ito, si Giddey kasi mas may direction at merong sure role initially. I don't think aagawan pa 'to ni Theo Maledon. Pero let's see how they gel with SGA, with Blue Dort. Masyadong pang bata yung team na yon. This is still SGA's team. Pero yun, getting a if you need dimes and rebounds, out of position rebounds sa guard position, down the tawag dito, drafts, I think Josh Giddey is your best guy. And at the end of maybe hindi at the end eh, during the fantasy playoffs, isa din siya sa feeling ko makakatulong sa'yo. Especially, and as well as Evan Mobley, yung dalawang yan. Feeling ko matutulungan ganyan kasi sure ball na bibigyan ng pagkakataon ng dalawang younger teams na wala namang goal ng basta-basta manalo or makapasok sa playoffs ng experience yung mga future franchise players nila per se. So, I really love the value of these two guys. So yun, mga paps. This is one sample of what we'll talk about in our ups and downs. Soon, maybe next week, mas polish na to kasi syempre actual games na and then iha-highlight natin. Syempre yung iba na maganda yung games pero alam naman natin na yung laro nila, hindi natin basta-basta iha-highlight. Feeling ko there are certain players lang na isasali natin dito. Still will try to put as much as we can. So I hope you like this episode. And if you do, I would suggest na siyempre, bigyan nyo naman ng konting pampangiti si Papi Roy. Like, subscribe, follow, share, comment. Alam nyo naman na lagi tayong nagre-reply sa ating page and sa YouTube channels natin. Speaking of YouTube, we're available at YouTube, Spotify, Anchor, Google Podcast, Teacher, and Periscope. So, maraming salamat mga paps. Happy weekend. Good luck sa mga magda-draft. We will gonna have a Q&A and another, I guess, 2 to 3 more episodes bago mag-start ang ating season. And then, meron din akong isang surprise episode for you guys this season na feeling ko susubaybayan nyo sa buong fantasy year natin. So, maraming salamat mga paps. Again, this is your Fantasy Papi, and this is Fantasy Basketball PH. Bye-bye.